We all have what we want to paint, and then there's everything else. I want to paint warm and cool light, and use really strong color to sculpt my forms.
Welcome to Creative Juices. Tonight we have Seth Haverkamp with us. He's an amazing artist. I met at the Portrait Society, and he was one of the instructors there. He's a wonderful instructor, incredible artist, quite a funny guy. I'll tell a story that I loved about the convention. Was he was in the middle of his workshop and his child called, and he answered the phone and was talking to him like he had all the time in the world, and the kid was just going on and on. He was being a wonderful father, and all of a sudden he goes, look, I need to get back to teaching, so we'll talk to you later. And he left the phone up and everybody waved, and it was absolutely hilarious. So welcome, Seth. Thank you for joining us.
It was the only thing I was ever kind of semi-good at and could focus on, maybe is the way to put it. And my dad was an artist, not professionally, but he always did art. And my grandfather was a dabbler in the arts as well. And I have older siblings who were very serious about being creative. So just kind of, I just fell into it naturally. And probably the first example of how it was kind of going to be a guarantee that I was going to be more of an artist and less of an artist was in fifth grade. We had a big science fair that every student had to do a science project for. And I couldn't find anything that I wanted to do, any science project or experiment. And so I ended up doing, it was like a dozen drawings of birds of prey mostly. And so I did these drawings, and my dad and I matted them and hung them up. And then I did like 2 paragraphs on ornithology as to why it was, a science project, because the sciences of birds or whatever. A lot of our stories are the same. It's instead of listening in English, we were busy doodling in our notebooks. Yes. And that's just what I always wanted to do. So right. I was flipping through some old notebooks just a couple months ago, and just every page was just little doodles. And I was getting ready to throw it away. I was like, I can't throw this away. Mm-hmm. This is like my 16. Yeah, this is gold when you're 16 and 15. Yeah. Yeah, I think people don't necessarily realize how much work and energy we put into getting to where we are. I'm sure, like most of the successful artists nowadays, it's just talent and skill have nothing to do with it. It's hard work and dedication, really, to get to where we are. I always like hearing when a good artist is like, I'm not showing you my stuff from when I was, 22 or before. You'll be like, what? That's a sign of, what makes, when it doesn't come as naturally as we would like it to. Mm-hmm. We really kind of explore and figure out what works for you as an individual artist. And I think it leads to some nice things instead of the person who is just like, the Mozart of the art world. My favorite probably is Mars Rising, the one that won the grand prize in 2019 at the PSOA. If I had to choose a favorite. And the reasons are a number of reasons. One is I like the size. It's like 40 by 60 inches approximately. Might be 48 by 60 actually. It's a pretty big painting. And so he is not life-size maybe, but he's large. It's a painting of my son. And it's full figure. And I've spent so many years now like 11 or 12 years doing this kind of abstract background to where it's just layers of color and this, splattering or what have you. And so eventually I moved into doing more, adding an actual scene, a background with the splattering, and the abstraction. And I think this one in particular, Mars Rising, is a really successful, for me, successful blend of the abstraction and the reality. It also has the two light sources, the cool light from above and the warm light from below, that I discovered a few years ago is what I want to paint. We all have what we want to paint, and then there's everything else. I want to paint warm and cool light, and use really strong color to sculpt my forms. And having the pushed blue light and the pushed orange light generally makes it so I can push the saturation a little bit more. And I think I got to do that on a larger scale in this painting. So just as a fulfilling project, it was one of the most fulfilling projects. I did a painting of my daughter Penelope. I think it's called Penelope's Monocle, and she's holding a glass. It's an old watch, but she has an old watch that's wrapped around her head, and it's just around one eye, so it's like a monocle. And it's smaller and it's not as complicated. It's just her, and then it's my typical kind of abstract background. But she's wearing a sweater that's really detailed, and there's this necklace that has like feathers and like a bird head on it, and skull and stuff that's really pretty detailed, and the hands are pretty detailed. And again, it has the warm and cool light, but it's lit different, like it's from the side, which is just a little different. And I think it's such a simple painting, but there's so much happening on her that it's kind of intriguing to look at, and sort of draws the viewer in. I do so much detail. Like I love, detail, and painting details and getting there with my teeny tiny brush and doing more than is necessary generally. And then to balance that out, I do these kind of crazy abstract backgrounds, which I lay the painting down and I'm flinging paint, like Jackson Pollock. And it's just really fun to go from teeny tiny brushes of absolute focus and detail to just splashing painting on the back of the painting and not caring what happens. I do the background simultaneously because the background, really feeds into what the portrait looks like. Mm-hmm. And the portrait really feeds into what the background looks like. So I will, over the course of 10, 11, 12 days, every day I'll do another background layer. And so I'll spend an hour to 3 hours on the portrait or the figure or the hand on the portrait, whatever it may be, and develop the portrait. And then I'll spend 10, 15 minutes doing the background layer. And it just totally alters the way the portrait looks.
Sure.
And I never have a preconceived notion of what the painting is going to look like.
Okay.
Absolutely never. I let it develop. I just let the paint develop it, if that makes sense. It's mostly photographs at this point, which took me a long time to embrace. I spent a year at Studio Incamminiati in 2006, and they really kind of forced working from life, and for all the obvious good reasons.
Sure.
And after I left from there, it was about probably 3 years before I really embraced working from photographs. But once I embraced it and taught myself how to take decent reference photos, I really embraced it. Like I used the camera as my sketchbook, and you can do 100 sketches in 5 minutes with the camera.
Right, exactly. All right, Seth, I'll let you go. And it was truly a pleasure getting to know you even more.
Awesome. I appreciate it very much.
All right, sir. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.